Dawn breaks at 5 a.m. across the Siberian Tundra. For 9 grueling months, this land has been locked within an impenetrable fortress of ice. Yet, the violent summer thaw brings more than just the returning sun. It awakens an army, billions strong. Today, a massive migrating herd must outrun this microscopic enemy, or fall prey to the giants waiting patiently at the edge of the bog. The Blue Hour. A pristine bird glides across the silent Siberian tundra meltwater. Deep in the boggy marshlands, a Siberian salamander navigates the saturated ancient terrain. With deliberate grace, the swan dips its beak into the dark, reflective pool. This extreme seasonal shift drives the rapid permafrost thaw across endless plains. Every feather must be perfectly maintained to endure this brief, unforgiving summer thaw. A phantom of the mist, the blue morph Arctic fox begins its patrol. Through the shifting veil of fog, a snowy owl watches in motionless silence. The fox pauses, its ears swiveling to decode the faintest subterranean rustles. With a sudden acrobatic leap, it plunges into the thick, damp grass. Success is swift. The hunter secures a vital meal before the heat arrives. Nearby, a cryptic willow ptarmigan delicately forages among the wet tundra grass. But dawn's peace is deceptive. An ancient, relentless force rises from the bogs. The ptarmigan shakes its head, disturbed by the first waves of a staggering phenomenon. A majestic sandhill crane preens, fighting a losing battle against mounting air pressure. Millions of mosquitoes awaken, forming an insect swarm that dominates the marshland's soundscape. Driven by the rising hum, the immense reindeer migration begins its perpetual motion. They crest low ridges in their thousands, a flowing river of antler and muscle. Males shake their impressive heads, an exhausting dance against an invisible, swarming enemy. Massive hooves carve deep migration trails into the permafrost, paths worn by ancient instinct. Those lagging behind run in frantic bursts, desperate to stay within the protective herd. Mid-morning transforms the landscape. The russet-red fox surveys its vast, waking domain. Unnoticed, an Arctic hare hops cautiously, using oversized feet as natural snowshoes here. The fox digs furiously, utilizing every ounce of energy to uncover hidden lemmings, another calculated pounce. Survival in this extreme biome demands constant vigilance and effort. Even predators are tormented. The fox violently shakes its head to repel insects. Across the plains, ancient giants form a formidable muskox defensive circle against threats. Draped in incredibly thick coats, these beasts are severely tested by summer swarms. A deep, thunderous rumble echoes as the massive animals shake their shaggy fur. A solitary male stands rigid, shivering against the relentless winged assault from above. Spongy hummocks roll endlessly toward the horizon, a deceptive carpet over frozen earth. Above this sprawling canvas, a gyrfalcon soars effortlessly, dominating the vast Arctic sky. Suspended against the massive overcast clouds, a rough-legged buzzard hovers persistently against the wind. With breathtaking speed, the gyrfalcon folds its wings and dives like a living missile. The buzzard beats its wings rapidly, its sharp eyes scanning the moss below. Gracefully, the gyrfalcon lands on a rocky outcrop, surveying its infinite kingdom. Shallow meltwater pools provide a critical haven for the extremely rare Siberian cranes. An Arctic bumblebee works the lousewort, while the crane stands like a statue. With a swift, precise strike, the crane captures a salamander in the shallows. A family of tundra swans glides, their brilliant white forms contrasting with dark waters. Mosquitoes are everywhere. The crane's red eye blinks rapidly as the swarm attacks. Unbearable insect pressure sends the reindeer herd into a thunderous, high-speed stampede. They crash over the ridges, driven by a frantic urge to escape the haze. mud and water explode. Sheer panic turns the marsh into a chaotic battlefield. A large male bucks wildly, fighting an enemy immune to antlers or brute strength. Seeking relief, the herd violently splashes through shallow meltwater, spraying the cool liquid. Along the river estuary, a truly massive presence emerges, the Siberian brown bear. A tiny Lapland bunting, entirely dwarfed by the apex scavenger's deliberate stride. An Arctic skua aggressively dive bombs the bear, fearlessly defending its precious nesting territory. Unfazed, the bear stands tall, its powerful nose reading the wind's intricate scent maps. Here, saturated mudflats meet the cold ocean bay, an environment harsh yet beautiful. Midday brings stifling heat. A fierce wolverine pants heavily as it paces the moss. The wolverine watches as the musk ox herd abandons grazing, forced into lethargic inactivity. These immense ancient beasts lie perfectly flat, drawing slow, labored breaths from massive lungs. A large male rests with half-closed eyes, focused solely on enduring the midday lull. Furiously, the wolverine digs into dark peat, seeking the cool earth hidden beneath. A frantic lemming scurries deep into its root burrow, fleeing heat and predators. From its hole, it cautiously watches an Arctic fox surrendered to the warm sun. The fox curls tightly, using its bushy tail to shield its sensitive nose. Agitated, the fox snaps its jaws wildly at the thick, irritating clouds swirling around. Millions of mosquitoes form dense clouds, a staggering biomass ruling the Siberian summer. Escaping psychological torture, hundreds of reindeer wade chest-deep into vast, dark meltwater ponds. A sandhill crane calmly preens while the massive herd stands silently submerged behind. The crane closes its eyes, resting on one leg, conserving energy in dead air. A male reindeer violently shakes his antlers, sending water droplets flying across the surface. Wading deeper until only heads remain visible, they seek a fleeting moment of peace. The thick winter plumage of the snowy owl now becomes a severe, exhausting burden. The owl pants rapidly on the ground, sharing the breathless landscape with a crane. Conserving every ounce of energy, the crane stands perfectly still during the oppressive silence. The owl's raspy breathing highlights the extreme toll this summer takes on Arctic specialists. The elegant crane slowly bends its long neck, taking a deep, vital drink. Deep in the peat bog, the great brown bear sleeps, waiting out the sun. Its massive ribcage rises rhythmically, producing deep snores that echo across the moss. An opportunistic skua aggressively tears moss, entirely ignored by the slumbering giant nearby. The permafrost bakes under overcast skies, displaying shimmering heat waves over saturated earth. Disturbed by a fly, the sleeping bear twitches an ear and drifts back asleep. As afternoon cools, a ghostly pale tundra wolf appears on the distant ridge. An Arctic hare presses flat into the moss, frozen beneath the apex predator's gaze. The hare pins its ears back, attempting to blend perfectly with the dark peat. The massive wolf, the cooling wind, decoding the scent of exhausted prey. With its target acquired, the pale sentinel begins a slow trot into the bog. The tundra wolf pack awakens, stretching long legs and shaking sleep from thick coats. A gerfalcon watches silently as the organized pack forms a line across the tundra. The lead wolf trots steadily forward, eyes locked in an intense, unwavering predatory focus. With a powerful push, the gerfalcon launches, taking rapid flight across the restless marshland. The wolf pack breaks into a synchronized run, a breathtaking display of lethal grace. Miles away, grazing reindeer snap to attention to catch a perceived sound. Through anxious legs, the wolf pack's terrifying approach becomes visible on the horizon. The The massive herd turns collectively, beginning a rapid, splashing walk as panic mounts. The walk escalates into a deafening sprint. Thousands of hooves tear through the bog. A single adult, deeply fatigued, begins to lag, high-stepping desperately through the thick mud. Scavengers arrive. A fierce wolverine lopes steadily along the freshly trampled, muddy trail. An Arctic fox watches cautiously, an opportunistic spectator to the unfolding drama of death. The wolverine stops abruptly, burying its nose deep into a fresh wolf footprint. The fox trots parallel to the chaotic trail, ensuring it misses no coming opportunity. Unfazed, the relentless wolverine crashes straight through a meltwater pond, its run unbroken. The endless reindeer herd pushes frantically along the slippery river estuary mudflats. As panicked legs flash by, a pristine swan swims calmly, contrasting the sheer chaos. Disturbed by thundering hooves, the massive swan takes flight, feet slapping the water's surface. Cinematic nature unfolds as vast mudflats reflect the warm, muted tones of fading daylight. A small reindeer group pushes frantically through deep, saturated moss, eyes wide with fear. Twilight descends. The pale wolves run with relentless, terrifying coordination across the wet plains. A powerful wolf bounds past, rapidly closing the distance on the stumbling, lone straggler. The exhausted animal runs desperately, struggling to draw air into its burning lungs. Without breaking stride, the agile lead wolf leaps effortlessly over a small meltwater creek. Panicking, the lagging reindeer crashes heavily through willow scrub, snapping branches in flight. Over the horizon, the herd disappears into twilight shadows, leaving the straggler behind. Nostrils flare immensely, gasping for oxygen in the thick air. The limit is reached. The wolverine continues its steady pursuit as the reindeer ahead slows to a walk. Running low, the wolverine follows the scent of exhaustion, perfectly mapped into the mud. Rolling moss ridges stand silent, beautifully silhouetted against the dusty orange Arctic evening sky. The fox pauses on a mound, its elegant profile outlined against the twilight sky. A ghostly snowy owl watches tiny wolf figures run steadily across the vast plain. With a silent push, the magnificent owl glides effortlessly into the cooling, dark dusk. Moving in tight V formation, the wolf pack crosses a pond reflecting the dramatic heavens. The fox quickly follows the chaotic scent trail, drawn inexorably toward the hunt's conclusion. Stumbling blindly, the reindeer makes a fatal error, wading into a deep meltwater pond. The pack executes a flawless maneuver, fanning out along banks, cutting off escape routes. The trapped reindeer heaves heavily, while wolves stand perfectly still, watching with chilling patience. As the undisputed apex predator, the alpha steps into the water, locking its focus. Clumsily turning in deep water, the cornered reindeer lowers its impressive antlers defensively. Its ribcage heaves violently, the physical toll culminating in this terrifying moment of vulnerability. The alpha wolf stands motionless, letting freezing water and thick mud exhaust its prey. Framed by the predator, the completely spent reindeer sways unsteadily, struggling to remain upright. Panic sets in as the animal struggles frantically to pull hooves from suctioning mud. Sensing the exact moment, 3 wolves methodically wade deeper into the dark, freezing waters. Above, a tiny Lapland bunting flutters rapidly, catching insects thriving in the twilight air. Mosquito swarms intensify into massive clouds, violently swirling and dancing above the meltwater surface. Through the dense, buzzing haze, the relentless approach of predators is a terrifying sight. Paralyzed by exhaustion and insects, the reindeer shakes its head in a defiant gesture. The pack lunges, splashing aggressively through the final stretch to close the remaining distance. Terrified, the reindeer desperately heaves its massive bulk onto an incredibly viscous, dark mudflat. The lead wolf leaps onto the bank, its pale fur instantly coated in mud. The reindeer kicks wildly, but the nimble wolf dodges the dangerous blows with ease. Wolves snap fiercely at its hind legs, utilizing numbers to destabilize the trapped giant. Fighting for its life, the reindeer kicks backward, sending sprays of thick black mud. From a distant ridge, the immense Siberian brown bear silently watches the desperate struggle. An Arctic skua scavenges impatiently in the foreground, eagerly awaiting the battle's grim outcome. The skua takes flight, circling low across the dark mudflats to await inevitable scraps. The great bear, to catch the potent, rising scent of ultimate exhaustion. Moving as a single coordinated unit, wolves swarm the reindeer from all sides simultaneously. It is a chaotic, churning struggle of dark fur, flying mud, and primal force. Completely drained, the massive reindeer stumbles onto its knees, unable to support immense weight. Great antlers sweep violently through the frame, but the wolves hold their relentless grip. Mud covers the wolf's clamped jaws, its eyes conveying nothing but absolute, necessary focus. In a massive burst of adrenaline, the reindeer rears up, sending wolves slipping momentarily. The pack recovers instantly, leaping to drag their combined weight against the animal's flanks. Yielding to physical exhaustion, the massive herbivore collapses heavily into the waterlogged, freezing bog. The fox watches silently, knowing its patience will be rewarded as wolves secure prey. The victorious pack stands over their catch from the hunt's extreme exertion. Lit by the midnight sun, these high-latitude ecosystems endure nature's most beautiful, brutal cycles. While the tundra wolf has secured its survival through the long twilight, in another extreme corner of the world, life defies the odds. Here, it thrives not in freezing mud, but within a harsh, boiling sea of toxic alkali. Witness the bizarre adaptations and explosive beauty of the crimson tide.